Imagine being 17 years old. Cold nights. No roof. No food. Just a backpack, a few clothes, and a broken heart. That was Eric Thomas. Not in a movie. In real life. Born in Detroit, Michigan, a city known for its rough edges and hard knocks, Eric's early life was shaped by pain, confusion, and abandonment. He grew up in a single-parent household. And when he found out that everything he believed about his father, his identity, was built on a lie, it shattered him. He left home. Not for a weekend. Not in anger. But because the pain was too heavy to carry under a roof that no longer felt like home. So the streets became his shelter. The nights became long. The hunger became normal. He slept in abandoned buildings, in cars, in school hallways. But worse than that, he was lost. Lost in purpose, lost in direction, lost in identity. But here's what makes Eric different. Most people fall and stay down. Eric fell, but somewhere inside that broken teenager was a fire still burning. A tiny flame whispering. You may be homeless, but you're not hopeless. He didn't know how he'd make it. But he refused to believe that this was the end of his story. He found odd jobs. He started attending church. A pastor saw something in him, a voice. A voice not meant for silence, but for impact. And slowly, piece by piece, Eric started picking himself back up. In his own words. Everybody wants to be a beast, until it's time to do what beasts do. He was hungry. Not just for food, but for change. For growth. For greatness. See, pain either destroys you, or it builds you. And Eric? He let it build him. He realized that no one was coming to save him. No one owed him anything. And in that moment, that realization, was born a warrior. Not the kind with fists, but the kind with fire. He read books. He listened to mentors. He went back to school, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. He started building discipline. Habits. Vision. What Eric teaches us is this. Where you start doesn't have to be where you finish. From sleeping on the streets to becoming one of the most powerful motivational voices in the world. This is just the beginning of Eric Thomas's journey. Because when you're hungry for success, and you want it as bad as you want to breathe, you don't wait for the light. You become it. Eric Thomas didn't walk into college like most students. He didn't arrive with scholarships or dreams polished by guidance counselors. He arrived with baggage, the kind you don't carry in your hands. He was a high school dropout, a former homeless teenager, with no plan, no money, and no academic foundation. But what he did have was hunger, not just for food, but for transformation. Eric enrolled at Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama. It was supposed to be a place of learning, but for him, it became a battlefield. He struggled. Reading, writing, keeping up with assignments, all of it was hard. He was behind. Not just academically, but emotionally. Years of trauma, of instability, of being told he wasn't enough, they echoed every time he stepped into a classroom. But he kept showing up. Because education wasn't just about books or grades for Eric, it was about breaking a cycle. A generational cycle. A mental cycle. A poverty cycle. There were days he felt like giving up. When he saw younger students passing him by. When professors questioned if he belonged. When the pressure of life outside the classroom felt heavier than the textbooks inside it. But he stayed. And he learned that education isn't just about passing tests, it's about building character. It's about developing the ability to suffer through something, to struggle with purpose. Eric says, pain is temporary. It may last for a minute, an hour, or a day, but eventually, it will subside. And something else will take its place. If you quit, however, it will last forever. It took him 12 years to earn his undergraduate degree. 12 long, grinding, soul-testing years. Most people would have quit in the first semester. But Eric? He saw purpose in the process. He believed every moment, every class, every failure was shaping him into the man he was meant to be. College didn't just give him a degree. It gave him a platform. It gave him the voice, the tools, and the discipline to reach others. Because while others saw a dropout struggling to catch up, Eric saw a future leader being forged in fire. He realized that education wasn't just something you get, it's something you earn. And not just in schools, but in life. He took every lesson, every setback, and turned it into fuel. From a GED to a PhD, Eric didn't just beat the odds, he rewrote them. Because when you invest in your mind, no one can ever repossess it. Sometimes, the most powerful voices are born in silence. Eric Thomas spent years struggling, through homelessness, through education, through his own self-doubt. But deep inside, something was growing. A voice. Not just one that spoke, but one that could awaken others. While at Oakwood University, something shifted. He began speaking at small gatherings, churches, youth groups, even just circles of friends. No fancy lights. No big stage. Just truth, spoken from a place of real pain and passion. And people listened. Not because he had perfect grammar. Not because he sounded like a preacher. But because he sounded real. Raw. Like someone who had bled, and healed, and now had a message that mattered. Eric wasn't trying to motivate, he was trying to wake people up. To the life they were wasting. To the dreams they were delaying. To the greatness they were afraid of. I don't do this for likes. I do this to change lives. He began studying powerful communicators. He didn't just want to talk, he wanted to connect. He wanted every word to hit like a punch to the chest. To shake people out of mediocrity. Soon, his talks became firestorms. He wasn't just speaking, he was igniting. Students started requesting him. Youth programs started calling him. People who had never cared about school, suddenly started showing up just to hear ET talk. Because in a world full of noise, Eric's voice cut through like a blade. What made him different? He didn't come from the top down. He came from the bottom up. He knew what it meant to starve, to hurt, to fail, and that made him relatable. He wasn't a speaker in a suit, reading a script. He was a survivor with a story, speaking from the soul. One day, during a speech at a school, he said the words that would go viral. When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. That moment changed everything. People started sharing the clip. Athletes, CEOs, students. All quoting that one line. It wasn't just a phrase. It was a revelation. Eric had found his calling, to use his voice to wake up the world. And he wasn't just talking anymore. He was leading a movement. A movement built on discipline, grind, and no excuses. He realized that words can save lives, if they come from truth. And Eric's truth? It wasn't pretty. But it was powerful. Most people want success. But few are willing to pay the price. Eric Thomas? He wasn't just willing, he was obsessed. Not with fame, not with money, but with becoming the best version of himself. And that obsession? It started with one rule. No excuses. Eric knew what it meant to have real obstacles. He had been homeless. He had dropped out. He had nothing handed to him. But he never used any of it as a reason to quit. Don't make a habit out of choosing what's easy. Make a habit out of choosing what's right. This was the core of Eric's message. You can cry, you can hurt, you can struggle. But you don't get to quit. Every morning, he woke up before the sun. No alarm clock, just purpose. He worked out. He read. He studied. He spoke. He didn't wait for motivation, he built discipline. Because to Eric, grind wasn't just a hustle. It was a lifestyle. He saw people with more talent, more resources, more support, fail. And others, with nothing but heart, succeed. The difference? Grind beats gifted, when gifted doesn't grind. Eric started preaching this everywhere. To athletes. To students. To CEOs. He told them what no one else was brave enough to say. You're not tired, you're just undisciplined. You're not stuck, you're just scared. You're not unlucky, you're just unwilling to outwork everyone else. Harsh? Maybe. But real? Absolutely. And that's why millions listened. Because Eric didn't just talk at people. He talked with them. He looked them in the eye and said, I'm not better than you. I just want it more than you do. His grind wasn't glamorous. No fancy cars. No red carpets. Just sweat, sacrifice, and sleepless nights. He built his brand from the ground up. One video. One speech. One soul at a time. He wasn't chasing followers, he was chasing impact. And as his voice reached further, his message got louder. Success is never on discount. It's full price. And you pay every day. Eric made people believe that their excuses were lies. That greatness wasn't reserved for the lucky or the rich, it was for the relentless. No matter where you come from. No matter what's against you. If you want it bad enough, you'll grind for it. Because in Eric's world, grind is the language of greatness. Success doesn't knock. It breaks through, when preparation meets purpose. For Eric Thomas, years of grinding, speaking to empty gyms, school cafeterias, and local church groups finally led to a moment that would change his life, and millions of others, forever. It happened in a high school gym. The setting was ordinary. A few rows of restless students, teachers half listening, a mic in his hand. But when Eric opened his mouth, the atmosphere changed. And then he said it. When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. Silence. Then, impact. Those words didn't just motivate, they punched through the soul. They hit differently because they were born from pain, not poetry. They were forged in struggle, not a studio. Someone recorded that speech. Just a short video clip. Uploaded it. No production. No budget. No hype. And within days, the internet exploded. Athletes started quoting it. Entrepreneurs started sharing it. Students across the world were posting it on their walls, making it their ringtone, their daily mantra. Eric Thomas, the homeless dropout who once slept in abandoned buildings, had now become a global voice of motivation. The speech was featured in sports documentaries, NFL locker rooms, Olympic training camps, even classrooms in India and Africa. It wasn't just viral, it was universal. Because the message was simple. If you want it, really want it, you'll fight for it like it's oxygen. That clip became the defining moment of Eric's public journey. Suddenly, everyone wanted to hear more. Universities invited him. Fortune 500 companies booked him. Professional sports teams brought him in before championship games. But here's what's important. Eric didn't change. He still woke up at 3 a.m. Still traveled city to city. Still mentored young kids one-on-one. Still gave 100%, even if the audience was just 5 people in a school gym. Because for Eric, it was never about fame. It was about impact. He always said, I wasn't trying to be famous. I was trying to be effective. That one viral moment didn't make him, it amplified what was already there. The discipline. The truth. The hunger. Eric proved that you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be authentic, consistent, and relentless. And when your message is real, it finds its way to the world. Once the world heard his voice, Eric Thomas could have stayed comfortable. Sold out stadiums. Big checks. First-class flights. But he didn't stop at being just a speaker. He became a leader. A builder of movements, not just moments. Because Eric knew. Motivation fades. But leadership multiplies. He started ET Inspires, a brand that didn't just put him on stages, it built a platform for the next generation of voices. He developed training programs, workshops, and mentorship sessions for people from all walks of life. Students, teachers, athletes, CEOs, single parents, ex-cons, anyone willing to learn, grow, and grind. He created Breathe University, a digital school for personal development, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Thousands enrolled. Not just to hear Eric, but to build with him. Because he wasn't just telling people to chase dreams. He was showing them how to get there. Through courses, coaching calls, books, podcasts. He gave away the exact strategies that took him from the streets to the stage. But it wasn't just about money or motivation. It was about accountability. Everybody wants to be successful until they see what it takes. Eric wasn't afraid to challenge people. He'd call them out. Push them past their limits. Because he believed in them more than they believed in themselves. He surrounded himself with a team, people like CJ, Jamal, Carl, a brotherhood of excellence. Not yes men, but real men who would hold each other to impossible standards. Together, they traveled the world. From London to Lagos. From prisons to boardrooms. Delivering one consistent message. You owe you. No more blaming. No more waiting. No more excuses. Eric taught that success isn't about having everything go right, it's about having the mindset to fight through when everything goes wrong. He gave people something deeper than hype. He gave them structure. He gave them vision. He gave them the tools to transform their lives. And more importantly, he built leaders who would lead others. Because real legacy isn't in how loud you speak. It's in how many people rise because of you. Eric Thomas became a global force. Not because he shouted the loudest. But because his actions echoed louder than his words. He took the pain of his past. The lessons from the streets. The grit of the grind. And turned it into a blueprint for generational change. Behind every great man is a deeper source of strength, something that grounds him, humbles him, and guides him. For Eric Thomas, that source has always been faith and family. Before the cameras. Before the stadiums. Before the viral quotes and best-selling books. There was a young man, on his knees in an abandoned building, praying for a way out. Eric found his way to God during his darkest days. Not because someone handed him a Bible, but because life broke him open. And in that brokenness, he discovered purpose. I found God in the struggle. And he showed me I wasn't a mistake, I was a message. Eric's faith became his compass. It shaped how he led, how he loved, and how he spoke. He didn't just preach positivity, he lived with conviction. He believed every trial had a reason, every delay had direction. Even when success came, he never let it replace his values. He stayed rooted in prayer, service, and humility. But there was something else, someone, who kept him centered. Her name is Dee. His high school sweetheart. The woman who stood by him when he had nothing, literally. No job. No money. No roof. She didn't fall for the speaker the world now sees. She loved the broken man, the man with potential but no path. Through every phase. Dropping out. Going back to school. Sleeping in churches. Working late nights. Raising their children while building his dream. Dee never wavered. Eric often says, I didn't marry a woman. I married a rock. Together, they built not just a family, but a foundation. A home where love was louder than pain. Where faith was the answer to every fear. And their children? They didn't grow up the way Eric did. They had structure. Support. Opportunity. Because Eric broke the generational curse. He knew that real success isn't just about what you build for yourself. It's about what you leave for those who come after you. He made it his mission to father his kids with intentionality, to be present, to be gentle, to be strong. To model what it looks like to be a man of purpose and principle. Yes, Eric Thomas is a speaker. Yes, he's a motivator. A businessman. A viral icon. But at his core, he's a man of faith. A man of family. And a man who understands that the foundation matters more than the finish line. Because what good is success if you lose yourself, or the ones you love, along the way? Greatness isn't about how many people know your name. It's about how many people are changed by your message. Eric Thomas, from homeless teen to global speaker, didn't chase legacy. He built it, word by word, soul by soul. Now, in this stage of his journey, he's not just speaking to motivate. He's speaking to multiply. Because true leaders don't just create fans, they create leaders. Eric has entered legacy mode. A chapter of purpose that's not about proving anything, but passing everything on. He's training the next generation to speak, lead, coach, and build. He's giving away his secrets, his systems, his strategies, not to protect his brand, but to expand the impact. You don't win by holding power. You win by sharing it. He understands something most successful people forget. You can't take legacy to the grave. You have to leave it behind. That's why Eric's message is bigger than ever. He's writing books, building schools, leading faith-based leadership training, and creating global programs to uplift the underserved. But legacy isn't just in platforms, it's in principles. And Eric's legacy is clear. No excuses. Own your story. Outwork everyone. Put God first. Love your family. Serve others. His voice echoes in locker rooms and lecture halls. In prisons and boardrooms. In earbuds on long walks. In mirrors where someone is trying not to quit. You. Be phenomenal or be forgotten. Grind. Breathe. Believe. His words aren't just remembered, they're relived, daily, by millions. Eric often says, "One day, I'll be gone." But the words? The words will still be working. That's the power of purpose. That's the power of living a life not just for likes, but for legacy. He's not interested in monuments. He's interested in movements. People waking up at 4 a.m. to chase a dream. Kids from broken homes deciding to break the cycle. Men becoming fathers. Women finding their voice. Communities rising. Because Eric Thomas isn't the end of the story. He's the spark that lights 1,000 more. And that is how legends are made. Not by chasing applause. But by living with authenticity. By serving with heart. And by leaving the world better than you found it. Eric Thomas started with nothing. No father. No home. No plan. Now, he's given the world something unforgettable. A voice of truth. A message of hope. And a blueprint to turn pain into power. That's not just success. That's legacy.